Hello.
Hello, friends.
Welcome back. We're just listening to the noises of a dirt bike going back and forth, back and forth. I don't know how he hasn't run out of gas yet.
So, if you hear anything in the background, that's what it is.
You shouldn't, but
It's possible.
just in case.
It might sound like a giant fart.
Yeah. It's like, Ree!
I'm not farting.
It's constant. It's all the time. I'll be laying in the bed trying to sleep at like 9:30 because
Welcome to living in the South.
Welcome to living around crackheads.
In a rural community.
Anyway, how are you?
Hope everything's good.
I hope it's alright. I don't wish you ill will or anything, but like, I don't know, maybe you got a runny nose that won't stop running. Hey, but you're not sick. It's just like a leaky faucet.
Just allergies.
Yeah. I can relate. Literally had a smoothie between recordings, and I was sitting there and I was like, I think I'm allergic to pineapple. She's like, should you stop drinking that? And I was like, no. And by the time I got done with it, I was like, I'm definitely allergic to pineapple. I was like, this is not, I mean, it's not like Benadryl bad enough, which is like how I caught like raspberries and blackberries. Because it just makes my throat feel funky.
Yeah.
It kind of burns a little bit.
That's how I feel when I eat red velvet cake.
So usually I just stop. I'm bummed out though. I got a whole bag of frozen pineapple in the freezer.
Well, maybe Daniel can eat them.
I'm sure he will. I'll make him eat them. I'll make him smoothies and say, "Here, have this."
Wasn't the yogurt that you put in it?
The yogurt I also used was pineapple Greek yogurt.
Yeah.
Anywho, on with our spooktacular October episodes. We're doing the history of voodoo this week, which
not just the history.
Well, yeah, history and like how
kind of, what voodoo is in today's times.
Yeah, like how it's evolved over time. So, should we jump right into it?
I'm here for it.
All right. It has widely been believed that voodoo is a form of witchcraft or demonic worship, but contrary to popular belief, it is a folk religion originating from Haiti that came into being when Africans were captured and forced into slavery, causing their cultures and religious beliefs to collide with Catholicism. The African roots of voodoo may even span over 6,000 years, which would make it one of the world's oldest ancestral traditions. The more modern interpretation of this ancient religion emerged as a unique blend of Catholic and African magical and religious rites. It is quite a dynamic religion with no standardized dogma, which if you've never heard the term dogma, it is something that is held as an established opinion or a code of tenets or a point of view. It is quite common and acceptable for two neighboring voodoo temples to practice different traditions, thus making voodoo and the beliefs of its practitioners hard to nail down. There are some recognizable elements that unite the varying traditions of voodoo. The African elements of the religious practice are derived primarily from the Dahomey region. Dahomey? I don't know. I'm not from Africa.
Just the way it's spelled, it's like Dahomey.
Dahomey. But this region of West Africa, which is modern Benin, and from the Yoruba, Fon, and Iwi peoples of West Africa. If I'm saying this wrong, please definitely somebody correct me. No
ill intent.
No, I'm definitely not. Like, I'm white as they come.
Overly Caucasian.
I'm very, very
from
Caucasian.
The mountains of Caucasus.
Okay, so all of these people, as well as the Congo peoples from Central Africa. Many of the elements of African spirituality continue in modern voodoo, such as the practices of transcendental drumming and dancing, worship of the ancestral dead, and worship of the spirits called
I know this
Loa. because I looked it up.
I also included that in my notes too, and I found a... I said that.
Usually when it's like something like that, and I really don't want to butcher it, I'll look up like a YouTube video on how to pronounce it. I'm pretty sure it's Loa, okay, if I'm not mistaken. But the Loa are thought to be invisible supernatural beings that serve as the intermediaries between humans and the supreme creator god, known in somebody's boom boom system. I hate it here. And the supreme creator god, known in Haitian Creole as Bondieu, which it originates from French bon Dieu, meaning good God. Despite the importance placed on Loa, Voodoo is a monotheistic religion, much like Christianity. There are obvious, recognizable elements of Christianity in Voodoo, and those who are unfamiliar with the practice might be surprised to learn that that there is also a lot of commonalities with Catholicism, including prayers such as the Lord's Prayer and Hail Marys, and rituals such as baptisms, making the sign of the cross, and the use of candles, crosses, and images of saints. Some followers self-identify as Catholics and regard the saints and the Loa as different embodiments of the same entities, while others choose to distance themselves from identification with Catholicism and Christianity in general. The initial adoption of Catholic rites was a direct result of European colonists' ruthless attempts to suppress all aspects of African culture, particularly anything labeled as heathen religious beliefs. In Haiti and across the Atlantic world, enslaved Africans were forced to toil in merciless conditions. Their homes, property, families, and communities were all torn away from them, and they had almost nothing but their faith, which they clung to with tenacity. All across the world, including Haiti, attempts were made to strip them of their religion as well. In 1685, the French king Louis XIV passed Le Code Noir, which was a decree that dictated the lawful conditions that were applied to slaves and slaveholders across the French colonial empire. The law I wish he would just go away. The floor is vibrating under my feet. This is ridiculous. The law specified that slaves must be baptized as Roman Catholics upon arrival in the French colonies, and that the practice of any other religion was forbidden. And slaveholders who allowed or even tolerated their captives' religious habits would be punished right along with them. However, the colonists were outsmarted. As aforementioned, African and Catholic practices became integrated as a way of circumventing religious oppression so that the enslaved population could continue their religious practices under the guise of worshiping Catholic saints. It was for this reason that many Loa became equated with specific saints. For example, Papa Legba.
It is Legba.
Because he's the guardian of crossroads and spiritual gatekeeper in Voodoo traditions. And he became associated with St. Peter. Another Loa, Izili Dantor, is thought to be a protective warrior mother and is the national Loa of Haiti. The Loa are crucial to Voodoo practice as Bondi is thought to be too distant for humans to contact directly. Believers recite prayers and perform sacrifices to call and feed the spirits. Once the spirits have been beckoned, the practitioners dance, hoping to be possessed or mounted by the Loa. This tradition is, I did not mean to click my tongue like that. This tradition is often met with suspicion, primarily due to European and Euro-American Christian cultures. Possession is associated with the devil and demons. However, for these practitioners to be possessed by a spirit is an honor and humanity's primary means of communication with the divine. In voodoo, it is believed that the spirit's communication with followers through possession, during which time they can offer guidance to the worshiper, heal them, or even speak to the congregation through them. Many Haitians today believe that Loa helped their ancestors break the shackles of slavery. Now, I want to move on to the Haitian Revolution and voodoo's arrival in Louisiana. So, on the night of August 14th, 1791, the tale goes that slaves from a few neighboring plantations ran away in the night to meet deep in the forest of Bois Cayman. That's how you say that if you're reading along with me. In what was then the French colony of Saint Dominique. It was in this forest that they gathered around a bonfire with Mambo Cecile Fatiman. Okay, cool. Presided over a ceremony. The priestess prophesied that a revolution was coming. She said that it would be led by 3 of the men before her. I know it's not Jean, it's Jean Francois. It's not George's.
Hey, this is another one of those episodes that my sister laughs at you for not being able to pronounce French shit.
Well, I'm not French. I don't have any French in me.
I don't have a guess on that one.
I don't want. It's not Jorge's. Spanish.
It looks like George's.
George's.
It's not right.
Bissau.
Okay.
And Jeannot.
Yeah.
Boulet.
Yeah.
Boulet. That's bullet. Slitting the throat of a black Creole pig, Fatiman handed each a cup of the sacrifice's blood to drink as they swore their solemn oath to destroy their oppressors. According to folklore, at that very moment, storm clouds gathered and thunder rumbled as Fatiman was possessed by Azili Dantor. The warrior mother Loa then bore witness to the beginning of what would become the America's first black republic, Haiti. This began one of the most consequential movements in the history of the Atlantic slave trade. The Haitian Revolution, which lasted from 1791 to 1804 and was a spectacularly successful insurrection that overthrew the white colonist population and freed black Haitians from enslavement. I forgot the R in freed. Over the course of 13 years, many white planters fled Haiti with their slaves in tow, bringing their traditions and beliefs to Louisiana. Over time, this is how New Orleans became the epicenter of voodoo in the United States. This cultural import from the Caribbean had a profound influence that can still be felt today. But unfortunately, the average tourist's experience of voodoo in New Orleans may be a bit warped by the persistent misrepresentations that have crystallized over the 19th and 20th centuries, and these have never really gone away. Louisiana had a very different ethnic and religious makeup to the rest of the United States by the time of the Louisiana Purchase in 1803. Having declared independence from Britain around 27 years prior to this, the other states already have a unique American identity. Louisiana was late to the game, but it was quite culturally distinct because it had been both a Spanish and a French Catholic colony. Worse still, most of the black enslaved population had come from Haiti. This was significant because the Haitian Revolution was such a crucial turning point in the history of slavery as it struck fear into the hearts of slavers across the Americas. It was the only slave insurrection that had been successful on such a large scale, having overthrown a colonial government, abolished slavery, and installed the formerly enslaved people in power. These self-liberated slaves hit back at France, one of the most powerful empires in the world, and they won. The Haitians and Haiti itself were seen as an enormous threat to the colonial world. Voodoo was something unique to Haiti at that time and was viewed as an important factor. The authorities believed that Haitian voodoo religious leaders and even the Loa had a hand in instigating the rebellion. Now, these Haitian voodoo practitioners were on American soil and had brought their dangerous spirits and heathen religion with them. And this is what slavers feared could be the downfall of the antebellum America.
Excuse me.
Emphasizing these ties to voodoo and slave rebellions was one of the most important social functions of post-Civil War public voodoo narratives. Historian Michelle Gordon argues that voodoo narratives were used to establish black criminality and hypersexuality as a fact in the popular imagination. The practice of voodoo could be cited as evidence to justify racism and segregation. The exploitation of these phobias is quite apparent in the 19th century newspapers and magazines that described the rampant sexual hedonism, gory rituals, and even human sacrifice. For example, a story was published in 1889 in the Daily Picayune that was melodramatically titled Orgies in Haiti, the story of voodoo horrors that pass belief. The author claimed that practitioners of voodoo engaged in wild interracial orgies, carried out violent sacrifices, and had even cannibalized a little girl. The correspondent from New York claimed to have gathered this disturbing information while undercover in attendance of a Haitian ritual, disguised in blackface. I don't know about you, but anybody I've ever seen in blackface,
It doesn't look real.
it's not a good disguise. Not unlike the many alleged eyewitness stories of its time, the tale offers precious little in terms of any credible information, and instead relies almost entirely on the sensationalist, highly racist propaganda and stereotypes. On this occasion, a white goat was sacrificed, but my guide informed me that last year he was present where a female child was stupefied with drugs, her veins opened, and the blood sucked. The reporter goes on to insist that though it seems incredible, well-authenticated cases where recently buried bodies have been exhumed, cooked, and devoured by the almost completely barbarous inhabitants have been heard of. These sensationalized stories of violence, demonic rituals, and bloody sacrifices serve to prove the supposed barbarity of people of Haitian/African descent within the white imagination. These reports of the purportedly monstrous rituals could then be used to undermine Louisiana's notably radical reconstruction and emphasize the imagined horrors of black enfranchisement and desegregation. Predominantly, white newspapers ran stories promising full particulars of the hell broth and orgies, with such astonishing regularity that by the 1880s, a prominent African-American newspaper called the New York Age lamented that it seems as if each newspaper had a special agent to work in this particular field. Continuing into the 20th century, voodoo narratives continued to rely on those racial and sexualized tropes, appropriating voodoo as a form of gaudy entertainment. The image of voodoo to the public has transformed into something slightly more complex as movies and novels became to shift focus away from news reports and more towards sensationalistic fiction. Voodoo was now seen as something fascinating, alluring, and even erotic, but also still dangerous and frightening. From the 1960s until present day, voodoo in the United States has been used as a source of entertainment and a tourist attraction in New Orleans. So, I'll pass that over to you now to take over.
Give me a second.
Okay. 1 Mississippi. 2 Mississippi.
I was taking notes
You're
for
fine.
pictures to find. Okay. So, I'm going to dip a little bit into today's time. I saw her a second ago and I was going to take a picture of her because she's just so darn cute. Willa's asleep on Brittany's chair and it's precious. Anyway, so voodoo is very much alive and well still today. Specifically in New Orleans, the Voodoo Spiritual Temple across the street from Congo Square is the only formally established voodoo temple. The cultural center next door does offer a multitude of blessed candles, gree-gree, mojo bags, oils, herbs, incense, and art. It is much different. Voodoo as a whole now is voodoo as a whole, not just now, but always, is very different than the whitewashed version that you see in mainstream media. It is still practiced, but a lot of what you find is Christian Baptists who attend church on Sunday morning, or on Sunday during the day, and then worship spirit at night. I was sadly unable to find a lot on what is done in modern times, as this religion is kind of sacred and invitation only.
Yeah, it is a closed practice.
Right.
Like, I almost felt weird, like, talking about it, but I think even just, like, telling... What in the hell was that? What in the shitting hell is going on here? Is that Amara?
I don't know. There's a shadow on the other side
It's
of
probably
the door.
Amara.
I'm a little nervous to open this door.
It's definitely a cat.
I hope.
For sure. It's the needy one, isn't it?
Yep.
Come here.
Come on, Amara.
She's like, never mind. I don't want...
Coming.
Okay. But anyway, as I was saying,
Hi.
it almost felt weird to, like, talk about this topic, but I feel like, because I didn't know about, like, the Haitian Revolution.
Oh, yeah.
Like, this isn't stuff that, like, we learned in high school as, like, 2 Middle Tennessee natives.
Again, whitewashed.
Yeah. Like, I never learned about this kind of stuff, so I find this stuff interesting, and I hope that, like, whenever I'd really dive into the history of things, I hope it's not boring for listeners.
So what I did find, though, that this is generations of oral tradition and family lore is what has kept this culture thriving. Most of the gree-gree bags and charms that you find today are based upon that family's tradition, knowledge, or magical formulary. Rituals that are publicly performed still today, though I did read that a lot of what you see is not what true voodoo is. What we see is a very whitewashed, again, version that the mainstream has brought forth. It's for entertainment. I found an interview that was conducted with a high voodoo priest that talks about modern day practice that I did find quite interesting. The interview was between Alexandra Kennan and Robbie Gilmore. And here's a weird thing. The interview was conducted September 20th of 2021, and I read this article and finished writing this episode on September 20th.
Oh, wow.
So Robbie Gilmore is an ordained high priest of voodoo. It's what he says is the actual name for voodoo is Vodou, Vodou.
Yeah.
He was ordained as a voodoo priest in Haiti, but grew up in rural Louisiana. His family actually lived on the very plantation that his ancestors were enslaved.
Oh, wow.
Gilmore expressed in his interview that he is fighting the images that pop culture has made voodoo out to be. He states that black magic is not a thing in this religion. This assumption, or better yet, misconception, is so widespread that right before his conversation with Kennan, he was asked by someone to help undo somebody else's witchcraft.
Oh, wow.
He quickly informed that person that voodoo is just worshiping God and honoring the spirits in ceremony.
Yeah.
based off of the interview, here are things that I found that voodoo is. It's a legitimate religion with a supreme being, a pantheon, rituals, and it overlaps with Catholicism. Mm-hmm. You kind of touched into that. It is very complex, and it is very personal. There's no set rules on how you worship. It varies from area to area and family to family. Each area is going to do it a little bit different than the next.
Yeah, I find that kind of cool.
I do too.
Being spiritual and religious, but in your own way.
Right. They worship one God. That's usually called I read it as Bondi, but you said Bondi.
Yeah. It could, I could be wrong.
Right. But it is, like you said, from the French bon Dieu, meaning good God.
Yeah.
Under Bondi are other spirits. Haitian tradition calls them the Loa, and the West African call them Orishas. They each have their own purpose and names and personalities. In Louisiana, they just call them spirits.
Yeah.
The biggest part of voodoo is each practitioner's ancestors. It's believed that when you revere and care for them in the correct way, that they aid you in your journey. You have to work well with the ancestors to get the Loa or Orishas or spirits. Altars are set up for ancestors to ensure that they are properly, and I hate to use this term, but I couldn't think of anything else, but like the altars are set up to ensure that they are properly worshipped.
Yeah.
In traditional ceremony, the spirits are summoned to be present right then. Unlike Christianity, where God is in heaven, he's somewhere else. Spirits are summoned by singing, percussion and drumming, dancing, and offerings of all the things that are liked by the particular spirits. A way to worship, this is a way to worship and give thanks and help out those that are less fortunate. And that was what, in this interview, he was very specific and very repetitive about. This is something that helps out the less fortunate.
Yeah.
It is mostly secretive. The only those who have been initiated in are allowed to see all of the ritual elements. You can't just pick it up and start participating. You have to be invited and initiated in. Mm-hmm. It's not like church. You can't just, I'm going to go to church today, and see all the innards of what goes on in the church. You can't just do that.
You can't just wake up and decide you want to try out the voodoo religion like you can. You can wake up and be like, I think I'll be a Christian today.
Right. And honestly, I don't, with this religion being something that is very specific to your ancestors and how each person, each family, each area worships a little bit differently.
Yeah.
I don't think that, even for instance, me as an outsider, if I decided that this was something I was interested in and I knew someone that was in it, it's not outside of the realm of possibilities to say, hey, can you teach me? Yeah. And they kind of lead me to that direction, and then later on maybe get initiated in if I'm accepted in or whatever. Mm-hmm. But their way of practicing is going to be different than my way of practicing because I have different ancestors.
Yeah.
Now, here are the misconceptions about voodoo as told by Gilmore. In fact, when he moved to New Orleans, he was very disappointed in what he saw. Mm. Voodoo dolls don't hold as big of a role as what you think.
Yeah.
They started out as poppets in European witchcraft and actually have little to nothing to do with voodoo. Poppets are just what you think of when you think of voodoo doll.
That's crazy because I got 3 New Orleans voodoo dolls in my house.
They're not...
they're just commercialized tokens. Yeah.
Ceremonies are not held often. You think of them having ceremonies all the time. Mm. They're actually only held a few times a year, and the ceremonies are held mostly with the intent of feeding the poor.
I like that.
So, they'll have these big ceremonies and have these big feasts and stuff, and they invite, homeless or whoever to come and eat. If you're interested in more of what this entails, Gilmore does have a few videos up on YouTube where he does explain some things. He was a tour guide at the time of this article being made. Mm-hmm. So if you're making the journey to New Orleans, look him up. Maybe he's still there.
Yeah.
I'd be interested in doing a tour with him.
Yeah, that would be cool.
So let's move on to some big figures in the culture. Now, I want to mention that I found this search difficult as well.
Yeah.
Because when you search voodoo people, or, big names in voodoo, or, powerful people in voodoo, you're going to find two names.
I think I might know one.
We've already spoken about both of these two.
Have we?
Yeah.
Because I know back in, like, the early 2010s, or, like, the early 2000s, maybe, there's a rapper musician named Azealia Banks who claimed to be a practitioner, and she would, like, show videos on Twitter of her sacrificing chickens in a closet.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Well, I'm sure that you can guess that the one that we found was the most famous of all, or the one that I found most of. But here is a small list. Sanit Dede, or Dede, or whatever. This person is the first ever recorded voodoo queen.
Oh, wow.
She was from Santo Domingo. Very little is known, but the records suggest that she purchased her own freedom through voodoo rituals. It is said that her rituals were originally performed in her courtyard on the corner of Dumaine and Chartres. That was hard. According to the legend, you could hear the rhythm of beats in her rituals during Mass at St. Louis Cathedral. That pissed off the church and triggered the 1811 ban of all non-Catholic worship in the city limits.
That is some...
Sanit Dede was the mentor of the most well-known voodoo priestess out there, Marie Laveau. Now, we did briefly discuss Marie in previous episodes at the beginning of the year.
Yeah.
Around Mardi Gras time. We covered that she was a free woman of color and devoutly religious. She attended Mass every day of her life and was a strong businesswoman. She was also the mother of 15 children. I don't remember if we covered that on the
I don't
last
think
one.
we did.
Her daughter, Marie II, succeeded her mother as the Voodoo Queen of New Orleans. As mentioned in that same episode previously, the most famous of all New Orleans root doctors was Dr. John Montanet, or Bayou John. Remember, this person had like 15 other names that he went by.
Yeah, I think I remember that.
He was an African priest and a free slave. It was said that he had tattoos of red and blue snakes on his face to represent the royal Senegalese family, of which he was a descendant. His fame was brought to him as he was a masterful voodoo drummer, wealth magician, and accurate fortune teller. In fact, the famous New Orleans root, High John the Conqueror root, is named after him. This is just, it's literally like an herb, like a root that protects against evil spirits and helps the user control conflicting situations such as love, gambling, litigation, employment, and financial stuff. He was also said to mentor Marie Laveau. Now, I will tell you, I was able to find a few lists of what looked to be like current people in the voodoo culture, but there wasn't a lot of information on each person. I wasn't able to find a whole lot. I'm starting to see here that this culture, this religion is well guarded. And I'm not too sure that I want to take that much of a deep dive into it because I don't want to offend or upset anyone.
Right.
It's not my job to put that out there for everybody.
Yeah. Because, I mean, and it's probably because of the connotations that it has in the minds of non-practitioners. They probably just want to keep it to themselves and not tell anybody about it.
Anything that you see on voodoo is portrayed as negative, scary, vengeful, even, and I hate to... My favorite season of American Horror Story being the voodoo episode. Are you good, girl? She over here sneezing. My favorite season of American Horror Story is the Coven season. Yeah. Where they do meet Marie Laveau. And they are very... It's a very, like... black magic, vengeful situation. She does help out those that need. But it wasn't. I don't think that it's truly what it is out there. And they did speak of Papa Legba, and he was seen as he was scary.
Yeah.
And that's not truly what Papa Legba was about.
Right.
Papa Legba was seen in that show as somebody that you made deals with, making deals with the devil. But he wasn't a fearful person, or, a person to be feared.
Yeah.
But that's all I got.
Well.
Like I said, that one was short and sweet. It was hard to find much of anything on that.
Yeah. So I've got the nonprofit of the week, which I will explain how I found this one after I read about it. So it's the Owen Hart Foundation. And on the website, this was written by his wife, Martha Hart. On May 23rd, 1999, my husband, Owen Hart, died violently and tragically after falling 8 stories from the top of Kemper Arena in Kansas City, Missouri, as the result of a wrestling stunt gone horribly wrong. Owen's death made no sense.
I knew that name sounded familiar.
Yeah. Owen's death made no sense to me and threw me into a world of darkness. It was so preventable and so unnecessary. Questions haunted my mind. Why did this happen to him, to me, and to our children? My answer came one day like a flash of light in the form of the Owen Hart Foundation. I believed that if I could help others in Owen's name, it would give meaning to his death. To me, that meant he would not die in vain. I established the Owen Hart Foundation in his memory in December 2000. Building this meaningful tribute to my husband and our children has given me strength and saved me from despair over his death. The Owen Hart Foundation is a permanent legacy that is in place to help people today and for generations to come. Owen was a practical man of profound integrity, a wonderful husband and devoted father. He would be extremely proud of the good work carried out by the foundation and would be honored to be remembered for what he loved best, which was his sincere kindness to all people. And I'll leave as usual, a link to donate directly to that organization. But, so, I had never heard of Owen Hart before in my life.
I was just say, you're not a wrestler.
I don't, well, I like Rhea Ripley. But
same.
So, I was on TikTok scrolling one day, and I saw it was part 8 of a documentary, and it was his story, and I went to the TikTok page and I watched all 16 parts of this episode of, it's the dark side of wrestling or something. Yeah, dark side of the ring. Which told Owen Hart's story, and and at the end it talked about how his wife, who was a doctor, started this foundation in his name because she was just down and out right after he passed away. But they do all kinds of stuff. So there's a scholarship fund, a home ownership program. They do some foreign aid. They do food drives, back to school backpack giveaways. They've got events. They've even got bullies. The Bully magazine, Bulldog magazine. Mm-hmm. They give all of the proceeds that they make from that to animal and environmental conservation. So, they do a lot.
I like it.
It's based in Canada, though, because he was Canadian.
Yeah.
But yeah, so.
I like it.
Yeah. I liked that.
You said that name, and I was like, why does that name ring a bell? What is that? Who is that? And
yeah, I'm sure that, any of the dudes that listen to this podcast are probably like, I know who that is. Because they, grew up in the 90s watching wrestling.
Right.
And I'm just not me. I don't know. My cousin
Hunter and Nighthawk
Angie,
might know.
maybe, but like my cousin Angie loved wrestling. And
I
she
did
used to
too,
have
growing up.
pictures of like all of the wrestlers she's met, and like pictures with the wrestlers and
Yeah.
their autographs, and it was nice. And she probably knows exactly who that is, but I did not. But now
Hunter
I
and
know his
Nighthawk
story.
might. TJ will.
But it was nice to learn his story.
I like it. Well, how long is that one? That seems short.
That was a short episode. We're at 40 minutes.
Oh,
That's not
okay.
too bad. So who are we telling this week?
Oh, let me bring that up. I forgot again. We are telling.
You didn't put one on here.
I didn't?
We gotta make one up.
I didn't put one on there?
No.
How did I forget that one?
I don't know.
Shit did not. Okay, well, let's see. Voodoo.
Tell your favorite bartender about us.
Okay. I'm just, that song is in my head now.
What song?
Bartender.
Oh. So, that's who we're telling. Follow us on Instagram,
TikTok.
X.
If it's still there, we're thinking about getting rid of it.
It may not. If Musty Musk wants to charge money for it, we will not have an X account.
Well, we have Instagram, TikTok, Facebook.
Yeah. Email us
Wanderers of Weird.
at gmail.com.
Every time from here on out, that's what we're doing.
Let's see. What else? Send us your spooky stories.
Topic ideas.
Any corrections if you hear any.
Right.
Or how to pronounce some of these French names that I'm awful at.
Brandy. She'll text
Spell it out phonetically for me.
me. She'll text me. She'll text. She'll call. She'll something. I'll be like, why you send this to me? Send it to Brittany. So send it directly to Brittany.
Don't call me out like that.
I
guess
our Amazon wish list.
Yeah, we got our Amazon wish list. I'll start linking that. I guess that's it.
Yep.
Lamar, you want to say anything? She's just staring at me. She's like, no.
Not today. All right, guys. Okay, bye.